Now, the making of a good compilation tape is a very subtle art, many do's and don'ts.
Let's make a playlist.
First of all, you're using someone else's poetry to express how you feel. This is a delicate thing.
Let's make a playlist.
You gotta kick it off with a killer to grab attention. Then you gotta take it up a notch. But you don't want to blow your wad, so then you gotta cool it off a notch. There are a lot of rules.
No rules here. This is Let's Make a Playlist with Jonathan Howe.
And we're back on another edition of Let's Make a Playlist. My name is Jonathan. Thanks for coming along on this journey with me and enjoying this music program. We're upgraded a little bit. I mean, you might notice if you're watching on the video on YouTube or Spotify, where we post the video version of this podcast, we've got new lights behind me. We kind of redecorated the home studio. I've kind of moved things around. I even got this fancy ring light in front of me that's borderline blinding me, but also making sure that my vis is not in the dark. So things are on the upswing, and you can continue to help us grow this podcast and make sure that things are on the upswing by liking, rating, reviewing, subscribing to the channel, whether it be my YouTube channel, or maybe you can follow the podcast on whatever streaming platform you're checking us out on. All of it makes a big difference in what we're trying to do here in growing this show. And right now, season 1, really focusing on the Niagara music scene and some of the friends and some of the other band members, some of the promoters, some of the people that are making a difference in my local scene. And so if you're from Southern Ontario, this is a great podcast for you. And if you're a music fan from beyond anywhere in the world, why not learn about a scene that I would argue is flourishing? I continue to talk about it. It feels like every single episode with my guests, I'm talking about how great Niagara's music scene is. And I'm truly embracing it for what it is. And I hope you embrace it as well, too. And, we're not just talking about songs from Niagara artists. We're having shout outs to, I'm looking over Vince Oliveri's episode. We got the Foo Fighters in there. We got Minor Threat, Metallica, all right off the bat on his playlist in particular. It's kind of cool. It's kind of cool to hear what everybody from that's been on the show, what influenced them to bring them to being the artist that they are, or the musician, the person that they are in the scene, and how they interact with music. So really, really been a lot of fun through the first couple episodes for myself as a host. Hopefully you're enjoying it too. Like I say, if you want to help us continue to grow, make sure you rate, review, tell 3 friends, just tell them, just say, hey, go and check this podcast out. It's good listening. I'm hoping it's a good one to listen to while you're driving in the car. That's all it comes down to. Whether it's music itself, whether it's podcasting, video, creating YouTube content, whatever it is, it's all about sharing it with the people around you and hoping that they start to like it and consume it just as much as you do. And if that's the case, then we'll all continue to grow and thrive. And I just want to see it continue to flourish. Not just this show, just all shows. I think there's a lot of cool things coming down the pipeline. We have some great guests coming up on this particular show that I can't wait to talk about. One today that I'm super excited to have on, Matteo Ramundo. We recorded this back in, I think, probably August, maybe it might have been late August or September when I was able to sit down with him. So it's been a hot minute here. And a lot has changed in Matteo's life and in his musical career, but that's okay because we get into some of the things with the band that he was in, Other Wives, who have since disbanded. And I believe he's got some new musical projects up his sleeve. One that I might be even featured in coming up. You'll watch for that. We'll get to the bottom of that. I don't want to give too much away, but it's just a little teaser for what I might have going on. Matteo, he's a drummer. Fantastic drummer, was playing in the band Other Wives. He has also been a part of Kennedy Von Katz's live shows, as well as many other artists. The band, like I say, since disbanded, but earlier this summer they opened for the Goo Goo Dolls, and I believe it's called Crew Fest. We get into that in the episode. We get into some of his musical influences and his unique approach to drumming. Get into the mystery of why drummers are bringing laptops to the stage. What is that to do with anything? As he is somebody that I noticed when I opened for Other Wives back in April, brought a laptop to the stage. I was like, what's this about? I've never seen that. But we get to the bottom of that. Everlasting, that's the EP from Other Wives that came out earlier this year. You should go and check it out. I know the band has disbanded, but I think all the members of that band are going to be continuing on their musical journeys in their own kind of way. And that might be an important kind of stepping stone to whatever's next for all of them. He's a really great dude. And I guess considered a free agent drummer. So if you're somebody who's listening to this and you're like, man, I really need a drummer for this project or this live show or whatever, maybe reach out to Matteo. Great episode, great playlist. He was on the ball too, I have to say, really, really fast with all of his answers and everything that he had to get to. So without further ado, let's get to it. Matteo Ramundo on Let's Make a Playlist. In this edition of Let's Make a Playlist, I'm Jonathan Howe, bringing on Matteo Ramundo from Other Wives, and as well as many other musical projects. And Matteo, an awesome drummer, but a guy who kind of helped me jumpstart getting back into the musical game by asking me to be on the bill with Other Wives back at a show in the springtime of 2024. So that was a blast. I really appreciate that, and I appreciate you coming on and doing the show this week.
Yeah, thank you. The show was a great time. It was a great turnout. I was glad to have you. I know you were getting into playing music again, so I was happy to have you. And yeah, it was good to see you again, hang out. So yeah, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no worries. Let's talk a little bit about your, I guess, musical background, because I know you as a drummer. Is that where
Yeah.
it all started? You started playing drums as a kid. Where did it get? How did you get to this point in your career?
Yeah, so I started playing drums when I was a kid. When I was like super young, I started playing pots and pans in like my parents' kitchen and stuff.
Nice.
And they got super annoyed of hearing pots and pans. So when I was 6, they got me my first drum kit, and then I started doing lessons right away from 6, and then I started some cover bands with some buddies at a super young age. When I was like, we were like 10 or 11, we started doing like old 80s rock covers, and then from there it all just kind of took off.
Yeah, and it took off in fair to say, punk and pop punk direction for you. How do you gravitate from the '80s rock that you're doing to what you guys are playing now, and what it seems like? Even if you go to your Instagram handle, you're always doing covers of like the stories so far and stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that.
Yeah, so my pop punk inspiration came from some of my friends. Their names Brandon and Andrew Biancanello. Um, they introduced me to a band called Transit while we were doing like these 80s rock covers, and I was like, I don't know about it. And then they played one song for me by them, and it just absolutely put me into the biggest rabbit hole of pop punk and everything. And then at the time, like I was, you mentioned the story so far. At the time, they showed me the story so far, and I was like, no way, I don't like this band. The vocals are way too screamy for me. I'll never like that kind of music. And then now they're one of my favorite bands, and I also listen to heavier music than them as well too now. So taste has changed all over through the years.
Yeah, it always does, right?
Yeah.
It's always one of those evolving things, and that's why it's kind of nice to have a show like this. Like a little later on, we're gonna make a playlist, and you can dive back into some of the old stuff to answer a question, or maybe it's gonna be new pop punk. I'm interested to see what you pick. We'll get to
Okay.
that in a second.
Okay.
But I want to keep asking some drum questions because I'm a guitar player. I've
Yeah.
never really played drums. I don't have that experience. I don't have that knowledge of what it's like to be involved behind the kit.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the more unique things, and you're not necessarily the only drummer doing this, but I'm seeing more and more drummers bring a laptop to the stage with them. So if you're in the audience, anybody who's listening that doesn't really know music, and they
Yeah.
look up and they see a drummer with a laptop next to them, what are they doing on that? What's the witchcraft that you guys have going on with the MacBooks beside you?
Majority of the time I'm watching YouTube videos of how to play drums. No, so for me, for us when we play, and like I'm starting to integrate it into the other artists that I'm playing for as well. I have, I use Logic, and I use the click track through that. So I try to get as much songs as I can from every set played to a click track, and then that way I'll listen to the click in my ears. You'll see me have headphones in instead of just the monitors, and then it just helps keep everything tight and on time. And then that way I'm also able to route backing tracks through the mix in house. So that way, if there's any like synths or any electronic stuff that needs to be played, I'm able to do that as well.
Yeah, so the drum position is starting to evolve beyond just keeping time straight up. It's triggering different samples, and it's always kind of been that in one way or another, but it's almost a little bit more open or out in the open for the modern audience to see. You mentioned working with multiple artists. We'll start with Other Wives because it's been a pretty good year for you guys this far. Released an EP back in spring, early summer, I guess it
Yeah,
was, right?
it was in the end of spring. It was May, I
Yeah.
believe. Yeah. So yeah, Other Wives is the main project that I've been working on. Did a bunch of stuff this year. Um, I played for Kennedy Von Cat. I'm playing for her, filling in for her on a few occasions. Got some shows coming up with her. And then I was helping my buddies out. They were trying to figure out kind of what they wanted to do for drummer wise. So I filled in for them with a bit. That's Moe Killed My Cool, which they're like a shoegaze band.
Nice.
So those are the ones that I've been on recently. So
Does your drum style change between projects that you go to? Do you find that you kind of are able to play like a bit of a chameleon role, or when you go to a project, you bring what you bring, and then the project kind of molds itself around that?
so for Kennedy, it's a little bit different because it's her solo project. I'm not writing for her. Her producer kind of she does everything with her producer, and then she kind of just comes to me and says, "Hey, here's the song. Can you learn it for playing live?" So that's not really. I wouldn't say that the drumming on that is my style. So I kind of just do what she brings to me. But then for when I was playing like for Other Wives, I'm just bringing my own style, obviously. And then when I was playing with Mo Killed My Cool, they literally told me like do whatever you want. So um, for the shoegaze stuff, like normally in like Other Wives, I'm not doing like too many fills and stuff like that. But they kind of just let me go nuts with that. So I just was bringing as many fills and chops as I could to the songs.
Yeah, I like that. I like that you have like two sides of it, and you have a place that you can get some of that stuff out because I know you got the talent behind you. I know you can play like however you need to play on any different thing, and I know
Mm-hmm.
you like to listen to a lot of different music because that's another way that we met. Was you sent me a DM to be on, I guess, kind of like your podcast, Instagram live show that you guys were doing,
Yeah.
where you guys were listening to music, kind of doing like on a 1 hour review show, and
Yeah.
having people bring tracks to it. What was that experience like, and what were some of the connections that you guys made there?
That experience was super cool. I got to meet some super neat people through that. The connections that I made through the music scene through that was insane. It actually started with my buddy that owned a studio, and um, he was kind of branching me and meeting that like showing me all these new artists that I've never talked to before because they're in a completely different genre. Like a lot of them were like pop, hip hop, R&B, rap. But I was just like, I love it, so I'm just gonna dive into everything, get a little bit of everything. But then I just started reaching out to people like bands that I like, record labels, representatives from record labels like yourself, um, and everyone just started responding, and I was like in absolute shock by the people that were responding. Like I even had like I was supposed to do a show with one of the members of the Beaches, and then at the last second they kind of pulled out. But I was just like I was even surprised that they even responded. So yeah, it was absolutely amazing. It was a great time, but it was a lot of work every week trying to get people because some people would bail. So then last second you're trying to find a replacement and everything. But yeah, it was a really good time. Lots of good connections, good people in the music scene.
Yeah, and that's the kind of special thing that like I remember when I was in high school and coming up in bands, everybody felt like kind of isolated. Like you might make your connections through like the music school you went to or something like
Mm-hmm.
that, but it wasn't like any of us knew what we were doing in terms of booking shows or trying to get together to put stuff on.
Yeah,
Everybody was kind of just doing their own thing, and now coming back to it as somebody who just turned 30, it feels like we're all starting to connect again, and the cities are all starting to connect again. Bands from Welland are contacting bands from St. Catharines and playing around the region, and shows are getting booked in the falls. Like it's really cool to see things in Niagara start to tighten up again, and it's helpful when you guys like yourselves are reaching out to artists and other bands and saying, "Hey, come play a show with us." I have to ask about it was Crew Fest, right? That was the big show that
yeah,
you
that was a
guys
big
played.
show. Yeah,
What was that experience like? Because that would have been, festival stage. Obviously, Goo Goo Dolls, I think, were the headliner of the night
yeah,
that you were there, right?
yep. That whole experience was incredible for us. it was a long road to get there. Um, but when like the day finally came, we showed up. They treated us like we were, because the way we got in was we won a battle of the bands last year. It got canceled because of weather, so then they brought us to this year's show. Um, so we didn't really know what we were gonna expect when we got there. We didn't know if we were gonna kind of be brushed to the side or if they were gonna take us in. And they full on took us in with open arms, treated us just like every other band. We got there, they pulled us in straight backstage, gave us our passes. The crew, the production manager there, he came over and talked to us right away, gave us a whole rundown of the day, said this is when I need you here, kind of thing. And then our monitor guy was super cool as well. He was kind of helping us because we've never played anything like that before. So we were obviously a little bit nervous and didn't want to step on any toes. So we stayed close by. We kind of just hung out backstage the whole time. Um, and then when it came to playing, it was we didn't even expect like a sound check, but we got a quick like 15-minute sound check to go as well. And then kind of walking out there and then like just seeing all the people like as the opener. Your job is to kind of direct people to the main stage, right? And then get people flowing towards there from grabbing all their booze and stuff. So it was really cool to just see like the amount of people that just started flushing in the minute the main stage took over.
Yeah, that's would have been such a cool experience.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and again, shout out to the organizers of that. You know, more big music festivals throughout Southern Ontario is better for all of us who are in bands and all of us involved in music that want to be finding some stage time, no matter where it is on the time slots or anything like that, no matter how big or small the festival is. So that's super cool. I gotta tee up the question portion of the show, the playlist making portion of the show, with one final question here for you, and it is: when was the last time you made somebody a mixtape, a playlist, mix CD, anything like that? Have you ever done something like that for somebody in your life?
Honestly, I don't know. I don't. It's been a minute. I've done it like maybe back in high school, but yeah, I can't think of that. I actually sent someone my playlist and teed it up for them. It was like, you got to check out all these bands. So yeah, this is pretty awesome.
Nice. Well, this is a unique moment, and it's something that I feel like is a lost art. So that's part of the reason to do this show. So if you just tuning in for the first time, you don't know how this podcast works, I've got this magical David Bowie Vans hat here filled with song superlatives. So they're just different descriptors, different questions, and then Matteo, you've got to come up with a song for them. So let's see what track one is going to be. So I need a song. Let's see, what is this one here? I need a song that makes you want to quit writing songs. That's a hard one to pull right off the hop, but a song that makes you want to quit writing songs because it's just so good and you never feel like you're going to get to that level.
Still Into You by Paramore, hands down.
Wow, you're ready to go with that one. I love it.
Oh man, I listen to that song every time, especially like Hayley Williams vocals. There's like an isolated version out there that you can find, and every time I listen to it, I'm just like, why am I playing music?
Right?
Oh my god, it's so good. Yeah,
they're that ultimate band of like, they still have the like pop punk sound, they still have all that sort of stuff that they incorporate, but they are as tight and as talented a band as you will find, including Hayley herself. The songwriting is so strong. I can 100% understand why you would pick that as the first song to answer that question with.
Yeah, it's just such a good song. The chorus is absolutely insane. I can never get it out of my head. If I literally have messages to my band members, I sent it to them, and I was just like, I'm quitting music.
You probably wouldn't have thought that when you were playing 80s rock, but
no, not at all.
All right, let's see what song 2 on the playlist is going to be. Following up, we almost have a theme here. A song with a female singer. Now, you can pick stuff by the same band. There's no rules and the limitations or anything like that. So if you want to go Paramore here again, you can. But if you got somebody else in mind, I'd love to hear it.
I'm trying to think. There's another band. I'm trying to think. One sec. Let me grab my phone real quick.
Yeah, use your phone. Use the research. We need that.
Yes, I have it. I can't remember. I know the name of the band, but I can't think of the song that am constantly blasting. So another extremely talented female vocalist. Okay. Oh, actually, changing it out completely. Um, "Circle with Me" by Spirit Box.
Circle and sorry, what was that one? Circle with what?
"Circle with Me" by Spirit
Oh,
Box.
with me. Okay.
Yeah,
I'm like,
yeah,
I know Spirit Box, but I don't know if I've ever heard that song by them.
yeah. It's off Eternal Blue.
They're an interesting band. They're kind of that band that I always see on lineups for other shows, but I've never personally checked them out. So I'm glad you put that one on the list because that'll give
Yeah,
me a good taster for that one. And
so good.
another band that I've heard like nothing but good things in terms of their talent levels and live shows.
Yeah, I haven't seen them live yet. It's on the bucket list, but they like, oh my god, Courtney LaPlante is just, her range is just absolutely insane. Phenomenal singer. Definitely check him out.
All right, I like that recommendation. All right, so for your third track on the playlist, a song featuring your favorite singer or vocal performance.
Favorite, featuring my favorite singer or my favorite vocal performance.
Because sometimes you just hear one of those songs and you're like, I can't believe how good the vocals are on this track. And then it's not even like a band that you truly love, but you're like, oh my God, this is like, you know, it's the question for the Celine Dion fans out there that don't want to admit they're fully Celine Dion fans, you know?
Yeah, it's so okay. So what the playlist here? Because I have a super wide range of like stuff that I listen to.
Well, that's the best part of this. It can be wide ranging. I mean, I had an episode where somebody picked a 23-minute Pink Floyd song. We've had hardcore that goes right into country. You can go as wherever you need to go and wherever your brain goes with the next question.
Okay, "Time to Say Goodbye" by Andrea Bocelli.
Ooh, what a pick.
Oh my god, I literally get goosebumps when I listen to that song because of how good like the vocal performance is.
I mean, he is like truly one of the all-time greats in terms of that singing style and just singing
Yeah,
in general, right?
yeah.
And that's like I probably the gold standard I would say of it all,
Mm-hmm. Oh,
right?
I'd say so for sure. It's so well done, and yeah, my Italian heritage kicks in there, and
Right?
I love that song. I like it's great. I listen to it like sometimes I'll just be at the gym and I'll just be like, yeah, I'm gonna listen to it right now to get me pumped up to lift weights.
It's like one of I think like Grandpa probably only had 2 CDs in his car. Actually, it wouldn't have even been CDs. It probably was tapes. I think at that point in his like
Yeah.
late '90s Buick or Cadillac or whatever he was driving, and I'm pretty
Mhm.
sure they were both Andrea Bocelli tapes. So that I like that. That's a good pick.
So good.
All right, so track number 4, we're going with a song from the best concert that you've ever seen.
Holy. Okay. Halo by Boston Manor.
Oh, okay.
That they are a pop punk band from the UK. Um, and they put on one of the best live performances by any band that I have ever seen. I went the way that I discovered them is I went to see another band called Movements. I went to their show. Me and the wife enjoy their music a bunch, and then we didn't really care who was opening, and we're just like, oh, okay, Boston Manor. I've kind of heard of them before, and we went to the show, and I was just absolutely blown away. Like I was just like this guy made the crowd his puppets, and like no one that had any idea what song they were playing, anything, he had them moving wall to wall. It was insane, and they were so good. And Halo's the big song that stuck out. That's like their one of their biggest songs. But yeah,
Where was it
phenomenal.
in the set? Was it like one of those like big songs they put right in the middle, or is it a closer, an opener?
No,
What?
it was a closer. It was a
Nice.
closer for sure. But yeah, they have some like cool synths that make some cool vibes at the beginning, and you don't really know where it's going, and then it just slaps in, and it's like, okay, yeah,
That's kind of the cool thing that's kind of been going on, I feel like, in pop punk, hardcore, heavy music, is that there is a certain amount of incorporating synths and drum machines and different things that haven't always been present in that music. And
yeah,
I would assume that, you know, based on what you're saying, you're a big fan of that addition to the spectrum, I guess, if I guess the best way to say it.
yeah. I enjoy it because I think it adds some filler and some beef to the tracks. So it depends. Like if I'm listening to heavier stuff, like I'm not as looking for it just because like the riffs are so beefy already.
Mm-hmm.
But definitely in like pop punk and all that, when I hear like the extra synths in there in the background, filling up those voids and adding some cool elements to it, yeah, I'm a big fan. Love it for sure.
Nice. I like that. All right, I'm going to reach back in the hat here and pick out something else. Let me go. I'm going to try to go from the bottom here. See if we can get one that maybe I haven't had yet on anybody else's show. Let's see. This is I'm glad I got this one. A great bar or drinking song.
Best drinking song, "Young New England" by Transit.
Young New England by Transit. All right.
Yeah, yeah, that's. I was mentioning them before. One of my favorite bands, and I used to play this song for like I'd throw it on playlists in college, and then if I was had buddies over, I'd play it. And I had one friend that just he's like, "This is my drinking song. This is it." And I was like, "That's." I was like, "That's what it's supposed to be. It's all about stumbling home from the bars and in the cobblestone roads of New England." And I'm just every time it comes on, I'm just puts me in a drinking mood. So
Nice. Was that one of those first songs that kind of grabbed you by Transit, or was that one of those ones where you'd been listening for a hot minute and then you're like, oh, what's this one?
honestly, yeah, I did not. It's off an album that from their fan base didn't really go over too well. People have kind of a very difference of opinions on it, but yeah, not that song that got me into them. So when I started diving a little bit deeper into that album, then that was one of the songs that I loved and stuck out for me and got me into it.
Nice. All right, let's go to track number 6 of 12 on Matteo Ramundo's playlist. What do we got here? A song from the first band you ever saw live.
First band that I ever saw live.
Yeah,
Ooh.
first big show you ever went to. Because I never know, every once in a while you get like somebody who's like, oh, I've only been to local shows and their music's not out, or it was just a cover set or something. But like the first like big show that you had to like buy tickets to, or maybe you had a parent take you to or something like that.
Okay, well, the first big show that I ever went to, it was like a show swap kind of deal because I have a sister, and it was like the deal was I had to go to her first big show, and then I got to go to mine. So my first big show, my first concert that I can remember was Hilary Duff.
Ooh, there's nothing wrong with some Hillary Duff.
Nothing wrong with it at all. But that's the first big one that I remember. But in return, I got to see Sum 41 and Motley Crue play together.
Oh, okay. You know what? Fair deal. Fair deal.
So I'm gonna go with that one because I'm not the biggest Hilary Duff fan. So I'm gonna go with the classic "Kickstart My Heart" by Motley Crue.
Nice.
Yeah.
And I don't know how recent that was, but where were Motley Crue at in their live performance? Because I know I've talked to more than a few people who've seen them lately, and it's not been as favorable in terms of reviews. But I feel like, a couple of years back, I don't know how long ago this was. I'm guessing if Hilary Duff was putting on shows, this is like early 2000s, maybe
This is early 2000s. I had to be like 7 or 8 maybe.
Yeah.
So for me, I was just like an absolute like awestruck. Like Sum 41 was in their prime.
Mm-hmm.
They were phenomenal live. Vince Neil actually like I don't know if it was because I like so much was going on, but he still sounded okay when I was there. Like I don't recall listening to the vocals and being like, "Oh, this is horrible." Like I don't. So yeah, I was also it was so I'd say that he was still pushing out half decent vocals at the time.
Fair enough. I like that. I'm glad that you got like not necessarily prime Motley Crue, but good enough that they were still putting on a great performance. You deserve that. 7-year-old, you deserve that.
Yeah, Tommy Lee was one of the big like reasons I started to play the drums too, just because I loved like watching him perform. So I may have just been a little bit too much in awe of his drumming. So
I can see that for you.
Yeah,
like, I can see that. Like I don't, Tommy Lee is. I think maybe sometimes he's overlooked, and I know like Motley Crue, like they have that classic '80s hair metal production to them. So you don't always think of them as you don't get to think about them as musicians. I think sometimes they get overshadowed by what they are and who they are.
Yeah.
But Tommy is a really solid drummer, and anytime you hear him outside of the context of Motley Crue, that's when you can really realize it. And I can definitely see his influence on your playing from what I've heard.
He's like he is super underrated in my opinion, because he, like, not only does he put on a phenomenal show, like if you have a chance to go look up, if for other drummers out there, if you don't think of anything, or like you want to go see like a show, go look at the stuff that he's done. Like, he's played drums on like roller coasters upside down. The one that I went to, the first one, he was swinging from like platform to platform from like a rope, doing like a drum solo. Just absolutely insane. But like, some of his parts, if you look into the drums in a little bit more detail, they're not like as easy as they seem. They all have really good groove to them. And I think his drumming is super underrated. I wouldn't say he's like an all-time great drummer, but he's definitely got some really good parts and really good dynamic throughout the songs that that stuck with me. Yeah.
All right, let's go on from talking Tommy Lee to talking about a song from the first album, tape, CD that you ever bought with your own money. Which I know is tricky because we all came up in the era of downloading albums, but
yeah, LimeWire, baby. The first CD that I bought would have been Back in Black by AC/DC.
Nice.
So I'll go with the title track, Back in Black, AC/DC.
I like it. That still holds up as like I love testing like my sound system on that album. Everyone always, I've read multiple articles about how like every major studio out there, like every producer, anytime they set up a rig, they put on Back in Black, and it's like if Back in Black sounds good on your stuff, you know that your stuff is going to sound right.
Yeah, it's just it's an endless classic. Like, you put that on, even if people are like, "Oh, I don't listen to rock music," they're gonna know Back in Black by AC/DC. Like, it's just so iconic. I loved them when I was a kid too. Like, when growing up, hands down my favorite band by like a long shot. So yeah, gonna add them to the playlist.
Nice. All right, let's go to track 8, which is going to be. I'll reach in here. I want to get a little bit of a deeper cut here, so to speak. A song for a rainy day.
Sober by Childish Gambino.
Ooh, I like that pick there. A good change of pace. And a song that, it's funny you say that, because when you hear it, it's not necessarily like the moodiest of songs in terms of instrumentation, the sounds of that actual track. But when you add in the lyrical content and like how Gambino performs that one, definitely I can see that as a rainy day song.
Yeah. So honestly, like, if rainy day wise, Sober, or he does a like a live session, like a version. Have you seen those?
The Triple J
The
radio
Triple
station
J,
or whatever it is.
Yeah, he does a cover of Still Into You. I forget the artist name, but like Timea, I think.
I think I've actually seen that clip. I think I know exactly what you're talking about.
And I love it. Like, that's my rainy day song, that one. But I don't think it's out, so I'm going with Sober, because I think he does that song as well in the live session and super enjoy it.
Yeah, just fits the vibe. It's a good vibe. I like it.
Oh, 100%.
All right, we are on to not quite the home stretch, but we got a couple songs here to click off still. So let's go to track number 9, which is going to be, we're kind of going around the live theme a lot here. Favorite song that you've ever heard live?
Favorite song that I've heard live is probably Nerve by The Story So Far.
Nice. What were they like to see, and where did you see them? Because I feel like they're one of those bands that you're only ever going to see in a small venue necessarily, especially around maybe Ontario and around Toronto area. But if you do get the chance to see them, I feel like they play bigger than the stage, so to speak.
They definitely do. I just saw them open up for A Day to Remember on the tour that they're currently on. This was like a month and a half ago.
Was that at the Woodbine Casino or something like that, or like somewhere?
Yeah, it's at the casino in Toronto, the new one.
What's that space like? Because I've seen multiple kind of like punk shows there, and I didn't really think that was the right space for it, but maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. You're shaking your head like no.
I don't think I'd, if even if it was my favorite, like it'd have to be like an all-time favorite band, like never missing the show kind of thing, to go and see them. Because if it's like a band that you like or like kind of on and you're like, oh, I'd like to go see them, it'd be a cool show. It's not worth it unless you know every single song, every single lyric by them. You're not making out what they're playing.
Oh, really? Like the
Yeah,
actual sound wasn't great.
the sound was terrible. It's like it's a super huge room. There's like a massive amount of echo, and it just like I like the 4 year strong. I just started getting into them. They played before the story so far, and I was like half their set. I was just like I couldn't make out what was being played, what was being done, and like even the story so far, like I knew majority of their song. Like I know like every single song they played, except they played some new ones that were unreleased off the album. Couldn't even make out what was going on. Like the minute you didn't know the song, it was like game over. You're not noticing what's being played.
That's a shame. That's a shame to hear, but at the same time, it almost validates the experience that we've got here because I've been to the OLG stage here in Niagara Falls more than a few times, and I've been impressed with the sound both times that I was there for it. I was there for a kind of rock show, and then I was there for a comedy show, and it sounds like they did a good job with that venue, and that gives me hope that's going to be like our big venue that I don't know if maybe a Day to Remember is going to come play there, but you never know, right?
Like you never know. Like at least some good acts, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm glad to hear that we've got at least right now the Superior Casino experience to draw from.
Yeah, it was not good. If you're like debating on going to a show there, if you're not 100% in, do not waste your money because it's not great.
Yeah, maybe they got some improvements they can make down the line, but I always feel like it's almost like playing like a convention center. Like I saw Matthew Good play at the convention center years ago, and it was a good show, but it was super weird that he was on this, whatever it was, maybe 20 feet by 8-10 feet stage or whatever it was. It was just this long rectangle in the middle of like a concrete space. Like I was just like, what is going on here? Is this a show? It was a strange space. So let's see. We got track 10. We got 2 more after this one. So 3 total left to do. Very important to a drummer. A song featuring your favorite bass player or bass performance.
Favorite bass performance. The one that sticks out to me is I think it's called 2 Weeks by Movements.
Okay.
No, that's not it. That's not the name of it. Just give me a second here.
No worries.
12 Weeks. That's it.
12 Weeks by Movements?
12 Weeks by Movements, yeah. It's not like, I don't know. I don't think it's overly complicated because when I was used to try to mess around with like guitar and bass, didn't work out at all. I sucked. But it was that's one of the bass lines that I tried to learn because I was like, oh, it sounds so cool. And I could like I was able to get the main riff done, so I don't think it's like too hard for all the bass players out there. I'm sorry. But for me it's just a really cool groove. I like it.
Nice. I like that. And it's funny to talk to drummers about bass players and how you guys hook up, especially I feel like in like the hardcore pop punk style, because everything, like I love bass lines that are really driving, and like my favorite band's Green Day, and I find Mike Dirnt is all over the place and like riffing. So I find I'm like, how does Trey even lock in with something like that? And yet they always do. So it's so interesting to see how a pop punk or like any kind of hardcore band, how those two instruments lock in together. What's it like in otherwise? What's the dynamic? Are you kind of bringing the drum parts and saying, hey, the bass should be doing this, or are you hearing the bass and following that? What's your process like when you're working in otherwise between the bass and drums?
So our bass player's name is Jake. Me and Jake have like we're probably like the closest for like influence wise. Like we listen to a lot of the same stuff. Like he's a big pop punk guy too. He's a big hardcore guy. So for us, it's kind of like we kind of seem to bounce off each other. Like if I'll do what I'm kind of thinking, and then he'll kind of be doing what he's kind of thinking. because the way we write songs is we kind of just write them all together.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm playing something and then Jake will, if he hears something while I'm playing, he'll be like, "Oh, try this," and then I'll just kind of work around it, and then I'm assuming it's because he has his bass part that he is gonna do something around that sense, and then the same thing for me if I'm playing something and then I hear some like if there's like an emptiness, then I'm like, oh, like it would be cool for a bass part to go here, then like I'll suggest it to him, and um yeah, we work really well together in that sense. It's kind of, we're just bouncing off each other. He kind of does his own thing. He's very talented at what he does, so it makes it really easy for me.
Nice. I like that. I like to hear good relationships between the rhythm section. As
Yes.
as a guy who's in a band with a rhythm section that have their own band or had their own project for a while, I'm like,
Hmm.
oh, you guys are dialed in. I can bring you
Yeah, yeah,
anything, and you guys are gonna figure it out. So,
yeah.
all right, the I guess penultimate track, if you will, 45, question 45, which is a song from a band you think everyone should listen to.
Ooh.
That one band that you're like, not enough people listen to this band. They need to hear this band.
Hmm.
Besides Otherwise, because everybody should be listening to Otherwise.
Yeah. See, that's tough because I would 100% go Boston Manor again,
Which you can do. No
which I
limits.
can do. But I'm gonna go with um. I want to try and go with a local band actually.
Okay.
Who do I want to give a huge shout out to?
I
We're
mean,
gonna
there's
go.
so many bands.
There's so many bands. Um, I'm gonna go with Chubb.
Nice. All right. What
Um,
track from Chubb? Because you just played with them too, right?
we just played with them. Yeah, they have a song called. I'm sorry, but they're like their songs are just like so insane. Like like that's it. Used to give a damn, never gave a fuck.
Like
That's
it.
Yeah, that's the name of it. I watched it, like they just did like a live session, and I was watching, and then they're like one of the questions they got asked was like, how do you name your songs? And they're like, we actually come up with the name first, and then we just assign titles to riffs. They're like, so sometimes it works with the lyrics, and then other times just doesn't doesn't mix at all. And they're like, and that's what we love
Which is
about it.
such a 2000s thing. Even like,
Yeah.
even when I've been listening to a lot of Jawbreaker, and I look
Okay.
at some
Yeah.
of the song titles that Jawbreaker has, and I'm like, they're so long, and I'm like, is this an actual lyric, or are you just like throwing something out there? I'm like, what
Hmm.
does this mean? Where is this
Yeah.
song title coming from? But I
Yeah.
like that it starts with the song title, then the riff. Do they match up? Who cares? Let's just write it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Fun band to see live too. If you're in Niagara or anywhere in Ontario, check out Chubb.
Nice.
Great guys.
All right, last question, Matteo. Let's see what's going to finish out your playlist here. It's question 24, which means it's a song from a band in your local scene or hometown. So you get an extra shout out for somebody local.
Another one.
I know it's hard because it's like you don't want to like forget somebody.
I don't want to forget anyone at all. And there's a lot of Niagara bands that are absolutely killing it right now. In fact, let me dive into
Do a deep
this.
dive here.
Because I want to, if I can get some, man, it's crazy because sometimes, like, there's so many local bands, and then I'm just absolutely blanking right now. Like, to name it.
Well, you're like overwhelmed, right? Like I think the same thing. I'm trying to remember like every band that I know somebody who's in, and then I want to give them a shout out, or I got to get them on the
Yeah.
show, and then I'm gonna be like finishing season 1 of this podcast, and I'll be like, oh, I didn't get so and so to come on the show. How did I not get so and so on the show? So
Yeah, and there's been some really cool bands that we've played with from like the local scene.
the best part of local scenes though too is that it's a rabbit hole, right? You listen to one
Yeah.
band, then you see that they played a show with another band, then you listen to them, and then all of a sudden you're absorbing every single band in the scene slowly but surely.
Okay, I'm gonna go with another one that I think is kind of they're local, but they're a little bit like in the pop punk scene. They're doing pretty like they're doing decent from themselves. But it's gonna be Ocean Dream by Bearings.
Okay.
They're a pop punk band, I believe. All the guys are from Ottawa. The guy that produced all of Otherwise stuff, he was in the band at the time that they wrote it, and then he decided to pursue um, producing. So he's not with them anymore, but they're a great band. I love them. There's a awesome saxophone solo in this song. So Ocean Dream by Bearings. Yeah, I'll go with that one.
Nice. And with that, Matteo, you've completed the playlist. Let's go over it here. It's a bit, it gets a little wandering, I guess, in the middle here, but that's all right.
Yeah.
Still Into You, Paramore. We got Circle With Me, Spirit Box. We got Time to Say Goodbye, Andrea Bocelli. Halo, Boston Manor. Young New England by Transit. We've got Kickstart My Heart, Motley Crue. Back in Black, AC/DC. Sober, Childish Gambino. Nerve, The Story So Far. Track 10, 12 Weeks by Movements. Track 11, Used to Give a Damn. Was it Used to Give a Damn? I want to see if I can get the full thing. I only write down Used to Give a Damn. Used to Give a Damn. Now I Don't Give a Fuck. Did I get that right?
Yeah, Used to Give a Damn, Never Give a Fuck. Yeah.
Never Give a Fuck. Got it.
Yeah.
Shout out to Chubb. Awesome song title.
I'm wearing Chubb Fest shirts.
Oh, I was wondering. I was literally looking at the little cartoon devil guy on the shirt, and I was like, I think that's from the Chubb Fest that just happened.
Yeah, it sure is.
And the last track on your playlist, buddy, it is Ocean Dream by Bearings. So 12 tracks, kind of following a theme, I would say, for sure. And one that I personally am going to be excited to put together and listen to down the line here.
Yeah, thanks. If anyone likes this playlist, send me a DM because we can talk music all day long. It's just it's a little bit of everywhere, but I think for me, I will definitely be bumping the playlist, and I'll definitely throw it out there and see what other lunatics that have the same kind of style as me enjoy it.
Nice. All right, well, where do people keep up with you personally? And
for my personal stuff, it's Matteo Drums _4. That's where I post all like my little. I've been doing kind of like covers with different musicians around the Niagara region. I'm gonna try and keep doing that, and then I post drum covers on there and just a lot of music crap. So
nice.
Feel free to give me a follow and talk music with me.
All right, that is Matteo Ramundo. Appreciate him coming on the show. We're going to jump over into some bonus content that is only going to be on the Patreon. So if you want to hear Matteo's Desert Island list that I'm going to put him on the spot for right now, you can subscribe to the Patreon. Otherwise, we will see you on the next show down the line. But there was Matteo Ramundo on Let's Make a Playlist. Great playlist, I will say. He was, like I say, on the ball. If you're listening on the extended episode over on Patreon right now, even on his, Desert Island albums, he was extremely on the ball with those picks as well. So if you're not listening on Patreon, what are you doing? Come on over, support the show. We've got some great things planned coming down the line. A couple of people have reached out and asked about, where can I find the playlist that these people are making? Are you putting them up on Spotify or something like that? I actually am now, and they are over on the Patreon. So if you join our Patreon, I think the lowest price we have, like a $3 entry level thing. It just would mean the world to me if you can jump on, join that, and support the show and support everything I've got going on with this podcast and with all the other house production stuff that we've got going on. Pretty much all that's just going to go back into the show and back into supporting music and all the creative projects that a lot of the people who are coming on the show talk about. So looking forward to doing that, and appreciate you helping me do that by joining the Patreon. You can check out the playlist there. You can get the episodes early in audio version. You can still download them to whatever streaming platform that you listen to podcasts on as well. And I'm going to even maybe start using kind of use it as like a personal blog as well, and put some posts up about music and different shows I've seen and stuff like that. So hopefully you come along for that journey. And if you do, please consider jumping on the Let's Make a Playlist Patreon and supporting the show. One more thing before I get out of here. I do have to say that my playlist, I actually wrote down and went back and listened to a couple of the episodes and wrote down what I've been picking. And it's a good little playlist so far, I gotta say. What's track 5 on my season 1 playlist going to be? Well, let me reach in. I don't have the Bowie hat right now. I've got just a plastic bag with some numbers and names in here. So let's jump in. Actually, I already drew that one. I'm gonna change that one out. Okay. Wow. Heavy one that I've drawn out of the bag, and that's your favorite song. My favorite song. How do I pick a favorite song? That's nearly impossible. There's 3 that kind of rotate in terms of being my choices as a favorite song. One of them being Rock and Roll by Led Zeppelin. I kind of think that's the quintessential rock song. I think if you like rock music in any form, there's just something about that song that really perfectly encapsulates everything that is rock and roll. I also really I always like to say City of Blinding Lights by U2. That's up there for me. But I think for various reasons, my 5th track of this playlist, my favorite song, I've got to say, is Letter Bomb by Green Day. I don't like having 2 Green Day songs on this playlist already, but with All By Myself on there, that's not really, it's a Green Day song, but it's not like a serious Green Day song. So it's kind of I got the funny joke way to open the playlist. So now I get some serious Green Day in there. Thanks again for watching. Thank you again for sticking around to the very end and continuing on this part of my playlist as well. At Jonathan On Air, that's where you find me on YouTube, on Instagram, on Twitter, X, whatever we're calling it, TikTok, all that stuff. That's where you can find me at JONATHON On Air. That's where you can find me. Thanks for checking out Let's Make a Playlist. Please enjoy the show, rate, review, share it to friends. Please subscribe. Check out the Patreon if you're so inclined and you have the extra funds to do so. We'd so appreciate that for sure. And enjoy your week and look forward to getting some more episodes up for you. Expect to see them more frequently. Famous last words, but expect to see more episodes more frequently for Let's Make a Playlist. Let's Make a Playlist is a podcast hosted and created by me, Jonathan Howe, for House Media. At Jonathan On Air is where you can find clips of the show as well as all things me, JONATHON. That's how you spell Jonathan for the record. Please rate, review, subscribe, like all episodes wherever you get your podcasts. And if you want to support the show, consider joining our Patreon, patreon.com/Let's Make a Playlist. There you can find exclusive content, longer episodes, and sign up to receive our end of season zine. Don't forget to share the podcast with your friends, and we'll be back with more playlists.